Howdy, welcome to the final part of the two-part series on Outsourcing the Easy Way. If you've missed the first part, then pop over to understandinge.com/blog where you can listen in to the introduction to Outsourcing the Easy Way. In this second part, you'll meet Tom. Tom's a business owner based in the United States that uses multiple members of staff for his business. Tom's managed to reduce his dispatch lag time from 3 days to just 1, and outsourced members of staff are helping him build his second business. And with that said, let's dive in and meet Carlo again. Tom and Dave's here too. Tom, how did you first find Second Office in Carlo and his team?
Well, I think the first time I came across them was that they were advertising on AmazonGenius.com, which was a blog that was in existence a while back. I don't think it's actually live anymore. But yeah, that was the first time I was introduced to them, and I reached out to them and just started a conversation about it just because it sounded interesting and I hadn't really researched outsourcing that much.
Okay, and Tom, daft question. What does the business do? That's probably the first question which I should have asked.
Oh, sure. Well, back at that point, I was operations manager for an e-commerce company called rosenberryrooms.com. And so that was the first time that I worked with Second Office, and they were doing a variety of tasks for us, project-based tasks. And at this point now, I'm director of e-commerce at rugsusa.com. And so obviously we're just a large rug retailer in the United States. So yeah, now we have a few full-time members over there with them. And then additionally to that, even on the side, I have a software product called supplierpartner.com. For that, I've also used project-based things, but I've basically had their team sort of harvest email addresses and phone numbers for potential clients for me. So I've used them in a variety of ways for 3 different companies.
Okay, so you've used them to find data for you. What other kind of jobs does Carlo's team help you with? And another quick question, just to add to that one. Have you used the same people over and over, or have you had a mixture of people? Sorry, Tom, 2 questions rolled into one.
Well, we have used the same people. Actually, even as I transferred from one company to another, I worked with a lot of the same people when doing the project-based tasks. But then, of course, now with Rugs USA, we actually have 3 full-time employees with Second Office. And so, of course, with them, it's the same. So what we send over to them is a variety of things. Instead of using a tool like Channel Advisor or something along those lines, which would not necessarily fit our model because we sell to as a wholesaler as well. And so we have one of the major tasks that we have is someone that goes to all the various portals, and I think it could be around 40 different portals that we sell through. A lot of them are in third-party marketplaces and things like that. And they download the orders and import them into our order management system. Then they will take our inventory numbers and update all these portals and also take the tracking numbers out of our order management system and update all the portals. And this is just something that, there's no tool out there that will allow you to do this for the different platforms that we sell through. And so it requires a person. So that's one of the tasks, is just the managing of the feeds in between all the portals in our centralized system.
Yeah, because that just wouldn't be possible without a human actually doing it.
Exactly, yeah. Before, we have account managers for the various stores that we sell on. Each of them would just sort of manage those feeds for their particular accounts. But, a guy would call in sick and his stuff would just get delayed for days or something, and it would just be kind of spread out. You never knew who was doing it, and if someone made an error, then you'd have this, it was just a big mess. So this was a great way to streamline that by just having one person do it for everyone. And then, of course, we also did, and this is something I've done with both of the last 2 e-commerce companies that I've been with, we had them list our products on Amazon and eBay. And everything from redesigning our entire product pages and everything along those lines to writing the product descriptions to categorization, everything along those lines. We just supplied the feed of what we had and sent it over there, and they managed the rest of that. We've also had them update our actual internal catalog. So we drop ship as well for certain brands. And so, they'll send us their product information and we need to convert it into a format that will enable us to load it onto our site. So they manage all those sort of spreadsheet tasks as well for us. And then on the other side, we have some help in our warehouse. And the way that works is that obviously they're not physically here, but the sort of the support of the warehouse management system and just keeping things moving. So we have a pretty busy warehouse. I mean, for Cyber Monday, we shipped out 4,500 rugs in a day, 30 employees, 100,000 square foot warehouse. So it's a pretty busy warehouse. We have a warehouse management system that basically requires full-time management just to keep everything under control. So this was something I was doing initially as I was setting up this warehouse management system, but it was just eating up all of my time. And so we added someone to sort of be our warehouse management person. So some of those tasks are reviewing and applying the cycle counts across the warehouse. We have 2,000 different locations in our warehouse, and so we have constant inventory counting going on. So someone has to review those, make sure that we're not about to like zero out a bestseller or something along those lines, and then apply them so that it gets updated. We also have daily reports that we post in the warehouse as far as who picked how much, who received how much did we ship out for the whole day, how much did we receive for the day. And all that data is within the database on our servers, but it requires someone to actually go look it up by user and make just a nice chart for everyone to see it. And that helps motivate the employees and adds a bit of competition, things along those lines. So that's all handled overnight.
So I guess you're actually using the time difference to your advantage there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's
cool.
Great because they actually start work the minute that we close the warehouse. And then we wake up and everything's reports are ready to post. And there's other things. We have these guys in the warehouse, and they have certain tasks that they must complete on their scan guns each day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll forget, and that could have really bad consequences for our inventory accuracy. And so we actually have virtual scan guns on servers so that the girls at Second Office can log in and perform these tasks on their behalf when they start the day, basically to ensure that these guys did not miss it. So it's sort of an additional layer of safety to make sure that the procedures are being performed correctly. And also because this whole system is new to us, and so we're still sort of trying to get everybody used to it. So it's a great sort of safety net to have that as well. And then even just generally reviewing our orders, how much did the items that we picked, did they all get shipped, or is there something that got lost in between? Is everything in order to actually still in an outstanding order, or was something canceled and it didn't get updated? So just checking all that sort of stuff is another thing that they do for us just to keep everything moving. And that way I don't have to sit in front of the computer and be constantly looking at these things on a daily basis. I can have that handled, and then I just get notified when there's something that's out of the ordinary, and I can take it from there.
Okay, so by the sounds of it, you actually understood the task of what needed to be done, because you mentioned that it was using up quite a lot of your time in the beginning.
That's right.
So you actually learnt the task yourself and walked the path of what that member of staff was going to be potentially being doing for you. And then how did you go from walking the path to passing it over to a remote member of staff? By the way, was that something you found easy in the beginning? Obviously, it's probably got easier later on.
Sure. When we first started out, what we would do is we'd create a bunch of videos. We would just do, screen capture videos and then answer the questions and things along those lines. I started using Second Office within like the first month of me being with Rugs USA, and so I didn't even really know how any of this stuff worked myself. So I was trying to learn it myself while basically by trying to explain it. But I had to sort of gather that stuff. So it's probably more difficult than it would normally be just because of the fact that I was sort of trying to figure it out myself as well. So I probably didn't explain it as well as I should have. So I basically would make a video with the person that normally did the task and then hand that off and then get questions, go sit down with the person that does the task, sort of get them clarified, sort of just do it back and forth. So that's what I did on a lot of the import tasks and things along those lines, especially because I didn't know myself. So at this point, actually, with things like the warehouse tasks, I actually, just because I'm used to it at this point, I'll just get on Skype and discuss it in the evening, and we'll just hammer out all the details right there on the spot. These people that are working with us now, they are already very knowledgeable about all of our systems. And so at this stage, it's not really necessary for me to get too in-depth. They know what I'm talking about when I give them certain instructions. So there's a lot less training involved at this stage of the game. So I do less like defining and making videos and instead just discussing it on Skype with whoever is the one working on the project.
And that's something which came over time, isn't it, as well? It just didn't happen overnight. You put the effort in, got some screen recordings in place. What did you use for that, by the way? Was it something like Jing or Camtasia?
It was Screenomatic.
Cool.
which I don't know if that's like a popular tool or not, but it was free. So I just Googled like screen sharing, and that was the first thing that came up.
Cool. Okay. And then the staff and yourself got up to speed over a period of time. And that wasn't overnight. A couple of weeks, something like that?
Yeah. I mean, for a lot of the first tasks that we did, which were these importing of orders where you'd have to learn how to get into the portal, find where you download the orders, then put it into this spreadsheet that generates it over into XML, and then you have to do all these other macros on the sheet. So it was like, those actually we got done pretty quickly. I mean, we would make the video, then they would send us back a sheet the next day. We would sort of say, oh, okay, this needs to be changed or something, send it back, and then after that, we would get it correctly. So it was maybe 3 or 4 days for each portal, but of course we had like 40 portals. Probably the more time-consuming part was me just getting, on our end, all that data put together, but once we got them the information, they took it and ran with it.
Do you track or monitor the staff in the background? Do you feel compelled to do that? Do you actually do that?
Well, I know that there are several tools that I've looked at where they document the stuff that they're doing, and they also send me a daily report as to what they worked on. But I don't have to do it too closely because the tasks that they're involved, it would be glaringly obvious if for one night something had not occurred. We would be missing hundreds of orders, for example, if they weren't imported. So pretty much everything we get daily, it's stuff that we use. And so I don't need to really track them further than that. As long as all of the different results of the work are there, then we're good.
Have you considered any of the members of staff for customer support or customer service? Or have you kept them in secondary roles within the business?
Sure. Well, I haven't as of right now. That doesn't mean I necessarily wouldn't, but we just have a 15-person call center that we've always had. And so it's something we're already staffed. So it's not something I've necessarily been out there looking to change.
So it's already working, no need to change it. So, Tom, just a curious question for myself again. How did you know that the member of staff was going to be able to help you from Carlo's team? Did you get to speak to the person beforehand? What was like the interview process like?
I believe I had worked with them all through various projects I had done in the prior years.
Ah, right. So you already knew the staff.
That's right, yeah. I mean, Carlo sent me resumes and things along those lines as well. But he told me, like, hey, she worked on this project with you and this one. So I already knew that they did good work based on that.
Curious question. Do you have a tip for somebody who's not as far down the road as what you are right now, and they're looking to bring a remote member of staff into their team? What one thing would you say to them if you could wind back time, and what one thing would you do differently, maybe perhaps, for them?
Well, I mean, I think the best advice I could give, obviously I think it's definitely worth anyone's time that's considering it. But the main thing is that I think that the value you're going to get is going to be, in direct relation to how much time you're willing to put into defining the tasks. I know people that have tried this and have not had good results, but it's typically because they were not willing to invest the time to train, which is actually a problem that you have in regular domestic businesses as well. But yeah, I think that that's probably the biggest indicator of whether or not you're going to love it or hate it, is if you need to be willing to put in all the time up front to train these people in so that the tasks get done. And as long as that's something that you can do, I think it's a great thing to try out.
Yeah, I must say that's quite an acquired skill, is to actually dedicate the time to bring someone up to speed, because you think, well, can you just make it work? And it really doesn't work like that. And again, every time I've had bad code back or not the results which I was expecting, in every instance, it was my fault. Pretty much. It was always my fault because I either didn't specify the job properly. Again, from talking from personal experience, I didn't factor in that things were going to go and change once the job had started. So things always move. Like with the best plan you've got, in the moment you go to execute it, is that everything changes or can change when you go and do it. So what you're saying there rings true with me as well, because I've been there, and again, the projects which have gone really well are the ones which I've spent a lot of time on making sure that they go well. And it's just like, probably the easiest way of explaining this is that you promote yourself. You promote yourself to trainer or director. You promote yourself so high in the business that you can't get tied up with the smaller stuff, so that you then have to pass it over to someone else. So you have to take on the role of the person who defines and specifies the task. And then, of course, you would jump in with them to help them out. But because you've promoted yourself up so high, you have to get back out again to go and do something else. That's an analogy which I've used before in the past. You promote yourself, because then that means, like, Tom, you've just got a promotion. Happy days. And everybody's happy about one of those. And it just moves them up a level. So they've got to give it away. All right. Tom, the software company which you mentioned, did you want to bring that in?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the software company is a product management database, and it's geared towards wholesalers and not as much e-commerce. But basically, we do a lot of drop shipping in the last e-commerce companies I've been through, and we'll have 400 suppliers or something that all have different data formats. And so what this tool does is it becomes your central product database where you can just map out an unlimited amount of import and export templates and store all your information just in a browser-based database instead of in a bunch of spreadsheets.
Yeah, I kind of get where that's going. That's happy days. How do you cross-link the products? Because obviously between those suppliers, there's potentially a crossover where two suppliers may have the same product available. How's that managed?
It's not an issue because my customers are wholesalers, so they are the suppliers. So let's say, for example, Newloom, which is our wholesale rug brand, we just list those products in an account, and that's where we manage the information. And then on the other end, we give out password-protected like logins to our retailers so they can log in to our database and make their own exports from our data and set them up on schedules and things along those lines so that they're emailed out. So like if you have your Magento store and you're selling Newloom rugs on it, so you would just, instead of needing to get any spreadsheets from us manually or anything, we would just give you a login. You'd log into it, configure your Magento formatted CSV export, and then set it up to email to you, or you transfer by FTP or something along those lines to your server so that you can easily put it on your website without having to do any conversion.
So you've built a software product purely for the wholesalers, so there wouldn't be a duplicate in products across them. And the customer, so perhaps myself or Dave are customers of that supplier, and we can choose our own data, which we want, and on our own schedule as well. So we may have one site which only gets updated once per day, whereas that we may need it on a more frequent basis for, say, eBay or Amazon, for example.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's mostly a tool for wholesalers to first manage their own information in a more stable way than just a spreadsheet. And then also there's always a lot of difficulty with getting big e-commerce companies to pick you up, obviously aside from third-party platforms and things like that. So it's intended to be sort of a benefit and a selling point for your company as a wholesaler to get someone to say, oh, okay, well, it's very easy for me to get access to the information. So yeah, sure, I'll put you up on my website.
That question, did any of Carlo's team help you with that? Or are they helping you with that?
Yeah. We did a project there where they went around and gathered all of the contact information of the wholesalers.
That now makes sense.
So they went to like all the various trade shows in the U.S., have all their exhibitors listed. And those are my target customers, people that have small businesses that just need a way to manage the information and get it to people. So they went around and basically got the phone numbers and the email addresses of all these companies that were listed as exhibitors.
And of course then reconciled them backwards so that you could then do your job to introduce them into the software.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, as this product scales, and it's still in the pretty early phases, I mean, I have just a couple customers, but as it scales, I intend to scale it entirely through Second Office. So I don't intend to have any employees in the States or anything for it.
That's a good target to work to.
Yeah.
It's not backgoing at all. Sorry. And I'm still thinking back to the beginning. Oh, and I have this other project. And it is not a small project by any means, really. Because I'm also going to go and get somebody else to do the grunt work in the background for me.
Well, see, that's the beauty, though, is if you outsource your tasks, it frees up a lot of your time to work on a variety of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, just on a personal level, that's my challenge for next year, to let go of more. Speaking from personal experience, when we started Understanding E, I knew that I had to have someone of equal caliber with me. That's why Dave's here, because Dave's up on my level. And I always knew that it was going to Dave's head swell over there.
I know, yeah.
But I knew that I couldn't do something like this by myself. And then this year, we've got now 3 full-time members of staff. within our team, Eastern Europe and the Philippines as well. One of the Eastern European is a developer, which has probably been like the toughest and the most beneficial decision I ever made. Because number one, it was a hard decision because they were working on my baby, my code. The other one was that they're really expensive, like ridiculously expensive.
Compared to what we were used to.
Yeah, in comparison to what we were used to.
In Eastern Europe, though?
Yeah.
No way, huh?
Oh, yeah, they, or she, is very, very good. But in proportion to other tasks, the area where she's very specialised in, and I can just draw stuff on my whiteboard and say, go and make that work. It's just insane. And she'll get it 80% of the way there. The other 20% always needs me. There's no getting away from that to add in the other parts, like the documentation, the wording, the linking to other parts of the system where they've not been in touch with before. And coming back onto the topic, which is that's my challenge for next year, is I definitely want another developer as well. I've seen what one can do in a very short space of time. What can I do if I had more? Yeah, I've got a taste for it, but it is really tricky letting go. That's where I was getting to. It's really tricky to relying on someone else. I know I made the baby step with understanding E, but next year it really is going to be, let's see how much I can let go and see how much we can do. What I'm trying to say is that I know it's
Good
hard.
luck to you.
Thank you. But I also, on the flip side, I know it's not easy by any means, but it does get easier. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah. I think as people learn your systems, it's easier for them to pick up the next level of complexity.
Yeah, it kind of accelerates, doesn't it? You start crawling when you're doing this, and then you get to a walking stage, and you soon end up running. Like you were saying, it's like glaringly obvious if they haven't done their work overnight with the warehouse side, for example. It gets kind of obvious. And again, do you get suggestions back or recommendations back from the staff?
Oh, yeah. One of the great things, like I said, now a lot of the tasks, they'll just be a quick Skype conversation or something instead of, I no longer need to make a big video or anything like that. And a lot of times I'll be walking through the warehouse, like chatting on my phone to them, oh, let's do this or something. And then they'll point something out that I hadn't considered yet just because I'm like going too fast and not really thinking about it. So they've saved me plenty of times from myself as well, just by catching things that I wasn't considering, because I'm not in the trenches anymore.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge help as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
Dave, how many times have you saved me this year?
A couple. Just a couple.
And Carlo, you've been there in the background quite a bit through this conversation. And how have you found Tom as a client? And how have the staff found him?
Oh, Tom is great. He's one of our ideal clients. He treats our staff very well. He trains our staff the right way and actually spends taking his time to train them properly. And that's very appreciative. We appreciate that a lot because, like you guys were explaining earlier, it's not the easiest thing to do because everyone's strapped for time these days.
I guess this boils down to it being more of a long-term sort of relationship, especially if you have a full-time member of staff. If you invest in your staff, then I think it stands to reason you will get that back tenfold in what they bring to the table once they're up to speed. And if you run the risk of not training them, then, I've seen it a couple of times where things can go horrendously wrong and it can be a bit detrimental because they've not fully understood the processes. So I think we've used the term before, Matt, isn't it? You put rubbish in, you'll get rubbish out.
That was the polite version, Dave.
That was the censored version. But yes, I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah, and I think if there's one thing which has come up both in the conversation yesterday or in the previous podcast with Carlo, that really is it. If you put the effort in, and we've heard it from Tom as well, if we put the effort in, we get quality back, but that does take time. Again, it depends upon the task. Sometimes it'll be just a couple of days, but it could be a couple of weeks to get them to the level where they need to be. And you end up getting suggestions back, as the case may be.
Here's one thing I did want to just mention. One of the huge benefits that there's been for us is the fact that our lead time has increased by a full day just by making this switch, because it used to be that we would import the orders the following day, and then they would not get put into the warehouse and that whole process until that day. So, now the orders are imported at like 3 a.m. and we start shipping at 7. So we basically can get down to a 4-hour lead time at sometimes. So that, for us alone, that just the saved revenue from pre-fulfillment cancellations and things on those lines easily pays for the whole team. Just that one fact there.
Yeah, that would make a massive positive difference in there. Whoa. Yeah, I've not looked at that, or maybe I should have asked him, were there any secondary benefits from having members of staff?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Everything that we've discussed, and even just obviously reduced cost and given us a lot more flexibility and freedom with various tasks that we normally would not be able to dedicate people to. But no, that's definitely the biggest one. As I look over the last year, the biggest impact that's occurred is that we've literally went a full day less than where we were just because of that one switch.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well done, by the way. So, Tom, we both appreciate you joining us and giving us the insight into not only we're working with Carlo's team there, but how it's impacted your business as well. It's really good to hear. And I know we discussed this a few minutes ago, how difficult it is to try and give us some of these things away. But I think you've got the taste for it, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always looking for more stuff to send over there. So like I said, if the other product, as it scales, I just want to start the whole thing up from there. I think that'll be great. So I'm sold, and I recommend it to anyone that's, on the fence about it.
Excellent. Tom, thank you for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Dave and Carlo, we've been through the basics, and we've been and covered what a outsourcer can do for us as business owners. And we found out that it was actually really varied in what they can do. And basically the only thing which they can't really do is anything which needs them to be physically in our office. So unfortunately, they can't make you coffee too.
That's why you don't have one, Matt.
Indeed. But on the flip side, we saw in Tom's business, he has members of staff helping him out with dispatch. I was surprised when he said that, because I didn't expect for him to have a member of staff in dispatch, or a remote member of staff within his dispatch team, but he does to help him out with the reports. And what was that, a working day? It put him in front?
Yeah, I mean, I just love the fact that Tom pretty much has a business which is being worked on 24 hours a day. Whilst he's sleeping, he's got outsourcers sorting out orders that are coming in overnight, ready to go first thing in the morning. It's fantastic. This really is a productive use of the time.
Indeed. Now, we chose Carlo on purpose for this series, and the reason for that is, number one, is that we trust Carlo, and number two is because we found Carlo by good means. We found somebody who was actually using Carlo for their business, and that's always a good sign. When you find somebody who's using a company and then actually openly recommends them in there through no financial benefit of their own, it normally indicates that you're onto a good thing. And that's how we found Carlo. And Carlo, we've probably known each other for about a year now, something like that, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's been a while, actually. I was following you guys from the beginning. Actually.
Yeah, we did. I remember having these conversations around this probably around a year ago. So, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And again, it's not Carlo's fault here. We know Carlo's been busy. He's got new offices, and I think you've doubled or trebled in size this year.
Yeah, we've doubled. We found that we doubled last year, and we're estimated to double or triple this year.
God, I need to buy some shares in second office.
Now, what we've been done is that just before this part of the conversation is that we've been talking offline, and Carlo gave us some options for us to offer you so that you can get an introduction into second office and meet his team and put your toes into the water with an outsourcer for your business. Now, Carlo did suggest offering a 10-hour package and maybe offering an hour free in there, but me and Dave, and to be honest, probably Carlo too, we didn't really think that was like the best move for you and your business. So what we've been done, and again, hat tip to Carlo here, is got two options for you. So if outsourcing is something which you would seriously like to consider, then Carlo, you've got two options. And again, it's a special rate just for understanding e-listeners. Can you explain a little bit more about those two options?
Yeah, so basically we have a project-based option and a dedicated staff leasing option. And I believe Tom mentioned this in the previous interview. Basically, project-based is basically purchasing a bulk of hours, and it's pretty much good for any business that has a project but doesn't want to put all their resources into a full-time staff member. So we sell these in blocks of 80, 160, and 320 hours, and the hours don't expire. So let's say you use 40 hours one month, and you don't use the other 40. The next month, you still have that 40 hours.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask, do they expire on that? So you could use them up really quickly, so you could use them up in just maybe 2 weeks, but they could last a couple of months, just depending upon what the needs are.
Correct. So on the project-based team, basically you get assigned a project manager that you deal directly with. So you only have one point of contact, and then basically the project manager will, analyze your needs, you send over the project over, and then they'll distribute it to the correct team. So, meaning we have several teams available. Like, let's say you need photo editing done, it'll go to our graphics team. If you need web development done, it'll go to a web development department. And if you need any, eBay or Amazon optimization or listing creation, it will go to those departments.
So that's project-based, and the cool thing about that is that they don't expire. Now, you've got an offer which is, if that is something which you'd like to investigate, is there's 8 hours free as well. In other words, you get 10% or up to 10% off a project-based member of staff. And the other option, what's that one?
This option is more for businesses that want to expand their current team or already have experience with outsourcing. And let's say you guys started off with project-based with us and you guys move into dedicated staff. Now, I highly recommend this option, especially for businesses that, are looking to grow faster. The dedicated staff option is we find and recruit the staff member that's best fit for your business based on the skill sets you provide us with that you need for that staff member. So, for example, if you need someone with merchandising experience, we can find somebody with that experience. If you need someone that needs to do order processing, so we'll find someone that's very detail-oriented or maybe even has experience from in the past from a previous job that does order processing. So basically, we'll find and recruit staff that's going to work exclusively for your company.
And that's a big concern because that was always my fear, is that the Philippines, for me, even based in the UK, is a very, very long way away. And not being able to interview the person via normal means is quite a challenge. Again, we're dealing with people as well, and we all know how different we are. That was always my concern, is that this member, my new member of the team, isn't going to be in the office and being sat next to me. They're essentially in a different country, in a completely different time zone, and having somebody who knows what they're talking about and can find a list of people. Is it just one person which you find, or do you find a group of candidates for the full-time member of staff?
The way it works is we handle all the recruitment here. So you give us basically your job description, and we will find and recruit that staff for you. So we'll provide you with up to 3 qualified applicants for your choosing. And we do all the dirty work, like we'll filter all the bad applicants, we'll interview them for you prior to giving those 3 good ones to you for an interview. So basically, we like to do one-day processing. So as much as possible, it's easier for the applicants. So usually we would ask you, when are you guys available? What time are you available to interview these applicants? So we're not wasting your time. And so you can interview them all on the same day.
Oh, wow. Daft question. Can you help us out, or you listening to this, with the interview questions as well? Because I don't do interviewing for new members of staff every single day. And obviously, you're much more experienced than what we are. If someone asks for some help over some questions to ask, is that something which you can help them with?
Yeah, so in addition to us doing the first and second interviews, you guys are actually the clients, will be the third interview. We can help you and provide you a set of questions that might be fit for your business.
Cool.
Excellent. Now, the setup fee for that, you were saying it was normally $199. You've got an offer for that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so for all Understanding E members, just mention Matt and Dave, you guys will receive 50% off the setup fee, which is $199.
So for basically $100, that your pre-interview and pre-filter up to 3 candidates for us to narrow them down to match to what our requirements are, or again, assuming your requirements who are listening to this right now, and then narrow those results down so that we can then interview them and find our full-time member of staff which can work for our team.
Yep, that's right. And also, you guys are not obligated to pay anything until we find a staff member for you.
Okay, so what happens if you get through the first 3 candidates and we didn't actually like any of them?
We will still provide you with another 3 candidates.
Right, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, we want you guys to be happy, satisfied.
To be fair, that shouldn't really happen because you kind of know what you're looking for anyway. You've been through a large member of staff or potential members of staff. You should know what you're looking for, so we should be getting 3 pretty good, high-quality potential members of staff into our team as well.
Yeah, that's right. So we actually have a very high success rate of providing the right applicants to our clients.
Excellent. So if that is something which you would like to know more about or to get into contact with Carlo and his team, it's really straightforward. If you go to understandinge.com/second office, so that's number 2, ND for second, and then office, OFFICE, and you'll be able to pop your contact details in, and Carlo or a member of his team will be in touch with you regarding your requirements. So just to quickly recap, you can get 8 hours free if you want to go for project-based. And again, that may be, if you're on the kind of like the fence, that may be the best way to go through. 80 hours actually isn't a long period of time, because if you think about it, it's only 2 weeks full time. But Carlo was saying that there's no expiry date on those, so you can use them up as and when you need them. Or what me and Dave would actually personally suggest, and again, you've probably followed us along with our story with Understanding E, and go for, if you're serious and you've had outsourced members of staff in the past and they've worked well for you and your business, then go jump in with 2 feet. Go and get yourself a full-time member of staff. And again, one of the things which we discussed earlier on with Dave and Carlo was that you get out what you put in, and this is where you can really sit down with this new member of team to your business. And every minute and hour you invest in that member of staff in your team, you're going to get that back 4-fold, 5-fold in there, because they're going to be working potentially while you're asleep. And that's just crazy. And they can do things like customer support. They can be finding suppliers for you. They can be doing everything which you probably shouldn't be doing, but are doing right now, if that makes sense, because we know what it's like, Dave. We try and do everything, and it's probably not the best use of a time. And again, I'm sure you're thinking of a task right now, which is on the tip of your tongue as you're listening to this. And if we could remove that task, and again, you put the training in, you get that member of staff up to speed, is that if that task was gone, it turns it into a management role, doesn't it, Dave? It's a little bit strange.
Yeah, you basically take the step back and you take a little bit more ownership of the business rather than working in the business. You've heard us say that 1,000 times, but it's so true. And I think another one, Matt and Carlo, is the fact that with Second Office, they are actually in an office with managers who will be making sure that they are on the job. You don't have to worry about, oh, sorry, Mr. Ogborn, my internet's gone down. There'll be none of that to worry about because, like I said, Carlo's got a big setup. He's currently expanding his setup. So, yeah, for me, that's another big plus, is that you have that reliability factor there.
Yeah, and again, just to give you like a real life example, right? We're recording this on the 29th of December, 2014. Tina, our assistant, she's been offline for 6-7 hours today. I know the reason for that. Her electricity's gone. So she actually sent us an email via a mobile phone to say that I'm offline today, electricity's gone. We're a little bit more relaxed on that because we know that person really well. Whereas like for you, that would be potentially detrimental, especially if they're doing customer support and things like that. They're in Carlo's office. They take lunch breaks. They clock in. They clock out. They've got a team around them with people doing similar things. So they're in this bubble where they've got peer support around them. They're going to have friends around them in their own office.
I think that just makes the whole name appropriate. It's Second Office. Your staff may not be in your office, but they're in a second office working just as they would in your location.
I facepalmed that because I completely didn't put 2 and 2 together there. So, good choice on naming, Carlo.
I could add in yeah, Matt, that's actually great because what we want to do is build your culture or your business's culture into our culture. They're basically in an office environment. They feel that they're not working from home. It's not home base. They're in a working environment where basically everyone is there to be at work and, to grow their career.
To have a proper job is what we're trying to say. And yeah, understood. So just to recap, these options are, you can go for 8 hours free if you go for project-based. And again, if you're on the fence, me and Dave and Carlo would suggest going for project-based. And the reason why we don't have like a smaller package available for you, like we said beforehand, we don't think that's right. You really do need to give it the time which it deserves, and for you to get used to specifying what a project is and to find out what works and what doesn't. And you won't find that in a couple of hours. It needs a good block of time to be able to do that, and Carlo can ease you into that with up to 8 hours free for that. Or if you're a little bit more experienced and you're sold on the idea of having a full-time remote member of staff who have got dedicated office and you can see what's going on, then go for a full-time member of staff. And basically Carlo's dating service for you to find the right person and with the right skill set for your business, half price, $100. That's like £60 in pound sterling, which is nothing. So with that said, Carlo, I think there's only one thing left to say really, which is thank you. Thank you for giving us this insight into what your business does and hooking us up with Tom to hear from his point of view and those special offers as well. That's really appreciated. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. And like you guys, Second Office's mission is to help businesses grow.
I think that's why there's sort of a good partnership between Understanding E and Second Office, because at the end of the day, our aims very much correlate to each other, and we're all sort of working towards the same goal.
Yeah, it's a team effort, and we believe in teamwork here at Second Office.
Happy days. So Carlo, thank you for joining us, and thank you to Tom when you're listening to this as well. It's really appreciated for your time. And like we said, if you want to find out more, you can get in contact with Carlo and his team by going to understandinge.com/second office. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carlo.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.